Hi folks, I'm Scott Borthwick. Today I want to take a quick look at the Music Memos app. I mentioned it in my previous video. I just wanted to explore why I find this quite a useful app for getting down some musical ideas. I have the interface open on my screen here, which you can see. Very simple app to use. If you want to record something, you just press the blue button in the middle. If nothing's connected, it will just record the internal microphone from your device, but you can also connect an audio interface to this. If you want to trigger automatic recording, there is an auto function on the top left-hand corner there. If you press that, then the device will start recording when it detects any sound coming in. I tend to find that because I plug in a condenser microphone and it's quite sensitive, that does tend to trigger the recorder quite easily, maybe just as you're settling in your chair or something like that. So usually I would just press the record button when I'm ready to record. On the right hand side there is a tuner, which does work pretty well. Useful if you're using an acoustic guitar and you want to double check that tuning in between takes. Although I think most people probably nowadays have maybe a clip-on tuner or something like that, and it's definitely worth investing in one if you don't have one. What we're interested in today is the files at the top here, right in the center of the screen at the top. We're going to press on that and we'll see the previous bits and pieces that I have recorded. What I actually did here was record another take of the piece of music that I've been working on, just to give you an idea of what this app can do. So I'll open this here and you'll see the sound wave there. If you tap on the sound wave, then it will just expand that out. So what's happened here is the app has detected the time signature and the tempo of the song and has split it into bars, as you can see here. It has also identified the key that the song is in and the chords that are being played. I have to say that's not always accurate, so it is worthwhile just coming in and double checking that the chords that it's identified are the ones that you were playing. And that becomes relevant when you add some instrumentation to this. If you do want to change any of these chords, there is a button at the top here marked as C minor 7. If you just press that, it will go into the chord editor and you can highlight any section you want and either select one of the chords that they suggest or press custom and add your chord in there, or in fact remove the chord demarcation entirely. We're comfortable with the way it is right now, so we're just going to leave that. And again, also, if you go back and check the time signature, just press on that. That will tell you that it's identified the songs at a tempo of 144 beats per minute. You can actually half that or double that if you want to. Again, we're happy where it is. It also offers you the opportunity to change the time signature. At the moment, all that it's doing is offering the same time signatures that Garageband offers, but I'll have a little word about that later when we move this across to Garageband. There is another function here, the downbeat, which I will come back to that in just a moment. Again, there's a trim function, which is the next icon along here, the one in the center at the top of your screen. And this, if you wish to trim at the start or the end of the track, you just move this red lollipop at the start, and then scrolling down you can do the same at the end and move the red lollipop, press trim, and that will trim off the parts that you want. A word of warning about that: if you're planning on doing that in order to move the start of the recording a little bit, this does actually jump in time with the time signature. So if you move this, it will just jump a quarter of the way through the bar, half the way through the bar, 3/4 of the way through the bar. So it's a fairly brutal form of editing. I generally wouldn't advise it unless you simply have maybe a fluff take or something like that you want to trim off the start, or some dead air at the start or the end of the recording. Okay, again, we're just going to leave that as it is, so press cancel and come out of that. You can add some notes to this too. So if you're using a guitar, whether you used a capo, you can make a note of where you place that on the guitar. And if you used anything other, if you deviated from the standard tuning, you can note what tuning you used there. This piece was recorded with the guitar tuned a half step low, but otherwise it is standard tuning, so I'm just going to leave that as it is. And finally, on the right hand side, you have your export functions, which once again we will return to momentarily. Now I'm just going to play through this track very quickly. or part of it anyway. Please note there is an unexpected voice on the recording. That was my daughter who decided to come along and join in. This is obviously not going to be the final recording for the piece, so apologies for that. And what we're really looking at is the functionality here. So I'm just going to play this quickly so you can hear what it sounds like unaccompanied. Okay, so that's how it sounds at the moment. If you did want to add accompaniment, at the bottom here you have a bass and a drum icon, and you can add these to the track if you like. Just tap and hold on to these and you'll get the dialogue coming up here. That will look familiar to people who are using Garageband in any event. So you've got the ability to change the intensity and the complexity of the play in the center, and then you can switch between an electric or an upright, a double bass. I tend to find the bass doesn't work massively well. In all probability, if you amended the chords, it might work a little bit better. But we're going to take a quick listen to this and see what we think. Now, as I say, I'm not particularly keen on that, so we're going to do without that. And then instead we will have a look at the drummer. This gives you an idea. You have a context of what the tune might sound like in the larger band environment. So again, press and hold on the drum kit. You have a choice between the modern kit, which is Darcy, and the vintage kit, which I believe is Mason in Garageband. Again, you can change the intensity and complexity of the performance. And here you've got the option of having the full drum kit accompanied with the hi-hat, the ride, or the tom drums. I think we'll just stay with the hi-hat here. Have a listen to how this sounds. Take this a little bit further down here. As you can hear, sounds okay, not bad. I'm wondering whether the timing of the drums is coming in just exactly right. So this is where the downbeat function actually can help you. What you've got here is the first meter starts right at the start of the recording. And I am just wondering whether this is going to work a little bit better if we change that around a bit. So again, we go into the time signature icon. And down at the bottom here, you've got the downbeat, which you can move backwards or forwards, and you see that's changing the start and the end point of the piece. So what we're going to do is we will move that forward just one beat, and we'll see if the drums hit a little bit more accurately there. Okay, so I think I'm a little bit happier with that, so we will leave it there. Now, as we've moved the start of the piece, I thought it would be worthwhile just to take a quick listen and hear whether the bass now fits a little bit better with the piece as it is. Just take the drums away here as well. Yes, that does seem to fit a little bit better. I suspect that in all probability the bass still doesn't fit just quite right. That would probably have something to do with the fact that possibly some of these chords might be demarcated incorrectly, but we can amend that in Garageband. And now what we're going to do is export this into Garageband, and we can have another look at what happens when you take this across to Garageband. So So we press the export icon. What I tend to do here is save to files. Apparently you can send this direct to Garageband, but I have to say I've not had a huge amount of success with that. I prefer to save it to files. Press save to files. You have three options. Mix down. Send your idea as a stereo mix. So if you think the idea is fully fleshed out and it's ready to go just as is, you can create a stereo mix and I guess you can master it at that point. You can send an audio file which would only be the recording of the piece that you have actually recorded. It wouldn't have any accompaniment, no drum or bass. Or create a Garageband project, which is what we're going to do right here. So press Garageband project and this will allow you to decide where you're going to save this. I've got this set up to default to save on the iCloud drive. And I have a subfolder, Music Memos, which I believe was created automatically the first time I saved a project from here. So just click Save here. And that's us done with the Music Memos app. Now what we're going to do is jump across straight into GarageBand. And again, we'll go into the iCloud drive. There's the Music Memos folder. And we have the sound check for fingerstyle Parlour guitar. Click on this and it'll open up straight into GarageBand. And there you see you've got the original recording, Darcy the drummer, and it has kept the electric bass, although I decided not to use it. But it is exported. We can maybe have a play around with that when I start working on the song a little more seriously. So we'll take a little listen to this as it is. And there you see it has exported the song just exactly as we did it in Music Memos. Now a couple of notes about this. What actually happens here is the Music Memos app has decided the time signature and the tempo. So when you go into the settings and look at the tempo, it's set as automatic. And you'll have a message here, the tempo cannot be adjusted because the song was created in Music Memos and is not locked to a constant tempo. Now, that's quite an interesting feature because that means if you speed up or slow down your performance, at least in theory, the drummer should actually follow that. You have a variable tempo, and so you should be able to have multiple tempos within your GarageBand project. It does mean at the very least creating a reasonably accurate rough version. You may decide to overdub or to re-record that once you're in GarageBand, but that would give your drummer a reasonable template to follow, so definitely worth exploring. What this will also do in the settings, set the time signature. Now this one happens to be in 4/4, but what I've noticed with other pieces that I've tried is that if you do use a different time signature that's not one of the default ones in GarageBand, and they generally only offer 4/4, 3/4 and 6/8. I recently recorded, for example, a piece that was in 5/4. Music Memos did recognize it as that, and when it was exported into GarageBand, it was in 5/4. So this isn't exactly jailbreaking it, but it does feel a little bit like that in a way. Certainly it gives you a little glimpse under the bonnet of GarageBand and makes you understand that they probably could do this if they wanted to, but Apple in their wisdom have decided that GarageBand music should be in one of these three tempos. Time signatures, sorry. Now again, GarageBand has identified this song as being in the F sharp major, which it isn't, but we will leave that there right now. So there you have it. Something I find very useful just to get the bare bones of a song idea, maybe flesh it out with a little bit of drums, possibly some bass, and just get the beginnings of a project. I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again another time.